Hey y'all, I'm Jennifer Purcell, and I am here today with Katie Fitzgerald and Rachel Lawrence to talk about both of their stories from our latest issue. So let me first introduce them, and then we are going to jump into some of these questions. All right. Katie Fitzgerald writes short stories in a variety of genres, but mostly contemporary romance. A former librarian married to a librarian, she is a voracious reader and listener of audiobooks and the careful curator of a large home library of children's books. She loves bookish t shirts, Flannery O'Connor, song lyric jokes, and little free libraries. Katie grew up in a small town in New York's Hudson Valley, but now lives in the Maryland suburbs with her husband and 5 kids. And Katie is the author of Falling for the Frog. All right. Rachel Lawrence writes stories and poetry about the everyday joys and challenges of life, love, and choosing the perfect snack food for every occasion. She draws inspiration from her experience growing up in a huge family in the Carolinas and having her views expanded by new friends and family she's met along the way, both at home and across the ocean. Her debut novel, a sweet contemporary beach romance, is coming soon. Rachel is a wife, mom, and lover of inside jokes who plays Christmas music year round. And Rachel is the author of Mr. Just Right. So for this first question, I'm going to go alphabetically, which means Katie, you're up first.
All right.
What fairy tale did you base your story off of? And why did you choose that fairy tale?
So I chose the Frog Prince for really no apparent reason. Because I was like, I don't want to do Cinderella because I feel like every time I write a fairy tale retelling, I start with Cinderella. I'm like, I don't want to do that again. Then I was like, Snow White, there are too many dwarves. I can't handle the dwarves. So I finally just Googled like what fairy tales are popular. And I was looking for like something with a fantastical element that I could spin to make a contemporary story. And so the Frog Prince, I was like, ooh, how could I get like a frog to transform into a prince without magic? I was like, oh, a costume. And once I had the costume idea, then the mascot idea just kind of came with that. And then I remembered that there was a ball in the story. I was like, oh, basketball. Perfect. And then the rest of the story fell into place from there. But it was totally random choice.
I love that. I love the totally random. I just don't want to do your typical story. I love that. What about you, Rachel?
Yeah, I think kind of the same thing. I just was trying to think of maybe something that everybody wouldn't write about or that I wouldn't typically go to first. And so I chose Goldilocks and the Three Bears because that's one, too, that's not like a romance. So I thought, how can I make this a romance? And I had actually written a story for our flash fiction community probably over a year ago when we did Inspired by Fairy Tales. And I used Goldilocks, but the idea came to me that like, okay, what if it was like online dating and the girl's really picky and everybody is like to this or to that. She's looking for somebody who's just right. So that was kind of my inspiration and it was fun.
I love that. You know, whenever I think of fairy tales, I usually forget about Goldilocks and the Three Bears. And I don't know why, because like there are even commercials now based off of Goldilocks and the Three Bears. And so I don't know why I forget it's a fairy tale. I don't know. Maybe I'm just crazy. Maybe I've watched too many Disney movies and they don't have a Goldilocks one yet, which they need to remedy. All right. So for this next question, I'm going to go to Rachel first. What is your favorite fairy tale and has it changed since you were a child?
Okay. I don't know if I have a favorite fairy tale right now. I kind of like them all. I grew up on all the Disney movies. So obviously, you know, Snow White, Sleeping Beauty, Cinderella. My favorite right now is probably Tangled. I love that one as far as the Disney movies go. But I will say when I was a kid, my grandmother was a small town librarian and I spent a lot of days just hanging out at the library with her. And she had one of those like projector screens that pulls down from the ceiling and she would put the old film rolls on there. And she had a Hansel and Gretel one that I just loved. I don't know why it was comforting for me because that is a scary story. There's no romance in that story, but I wore that thing out watching it. So that was probably my favorite as a kid. But now I just like, you know, all the all the Disney ones.
You know, it's weird when you think about how these fairy tales weren't as like kid friendly as like Disney turned them into. Because I remember as a kid having a collection of fairy tales, and I was reading it, and I got to the one about Blackbeard. I think was what where he had that wife, and she walked into that and like and it had an illustrated picture of like these bodies hanging, and I'm like, and like by then I was like 10, so it didn't freak me out as much. But I'm like, this isn't really like a kid's story, but you know. Whatever. All right, Katie, what about you? What is your favorite fairy tale?
So I don't remember really having a favorite, but my kids and I have been reading 12 Dancing Princesses a lot. They really like a particular picture book version. And I kind of like that one because there's like a mystery element on top of like the regular fairy tale. It's like, oh, why are their shoes all worn out every night? And like, let's bring some men in here and see if they can figure out what's going on. And I don't get tired of reading it aloud to my kids, which if you read aloud to kids, you know that you usually get tired of the books, but that one I don't get tired of. But I think same when I was a kid, my favorites were all the Disney, Beauty and the Beast, Little Mermaid, Cinderella, that kind of stuff.
You know, I liked Beauty and the Beast only because of the library scene. Literally the only reason. But anyways, all right, next question. And I'm going to go to Katie first on this one. What is your favorite romance subgenre to write?
Pretty much always I write contemporary or rom-com, but because I write short stories, it's not like unusual for me to dabble a little bit. Sometimes I'll write a fantasy, sometimes I write a romantic suspense, but the default is always going to be contemporary because that's just where my interest is and where my comfort zone is.
Well, you've had some stories in Havoc, correct?
Yeah, mostly mysteries.
Mostly mysteries, okay.
And one wacky story, which was what if Mount Rushmore was a boy band? That's not a romance exactly, but some vibes, some romance vibes.
I love that. I hate that I missed that one. All right. What about you, Rachel? What is your favorite romance subgenre to write?
Mine is the same. Katie and I often talk about how we are kindred writing spirits because in our little group of writers, we're the contemporary romance people. I do sometimes like to have like a little sprinkle of magic or like magical realism in there. But I'm of the opinion that real life has a lot of magic in it too. You just have to, point it out sometimes.
I love that. And I love that you found yourself a writing, but it's always so nice when you can find somebody in the writing community that you really like connect with. Because sometimes it can feel a little bit lonesome sitting here on your laptop typing away. So I love that for you, that y'all are kindred spirits, to quote Anne of Green Gables. All right. What is your favorite romance trope to write? And I'm going to start with you, Rachel.
Definitely friends to lovers is my favorite. That is my husband and I, that's our story. And so that's what I know. And I feel like a lot of my favorite stories growing up were friends to lovers. My daughters are really into the Lizzie McGuire movie right now. Have you guys seen that one? Yeah. And we were watching it the other night while they were getting their hair braided. And I was like, you know what? I think this might be where it started for me. I just think there's something so sweet about a romance that's based on a deep friendship. So that's my favorite to write and probably my favorite to read. I do like enemies to lovers too, but I will always, always default to friends to lovers.
What about you, Katie?
It's going to be we're so alike. I also typically write friends to lovers, but the reason is that in a short story, like you don't have a lot of time to like have characters meet each other. And it's just like, if you give them some backstory already, you've got something to start with. And I also I'm very specific about my friends to lovers. I like them to be next door neighbors. I like the guy to be a single dad. Like I have very specific parameters. And I also like the offshoot of friends to lovers is second chance. So they were together and they had something happen and they get back together later.
Gotcha. All right. Have you read a fairy tale retelling that you especially enjoyed and would recommend? I'm going to start with you, Katie.
So there's a series by Rachel Covasini. I think it's called Once Upon a Western. Is that what it is? She takes fairy tales and gives them a realistic spin, but in a historical setting. So they're all like Western stories, and there's like a romance element, but usually something else too. So there's like a Red Riding Hood one that I read, and there's a 12 Dancing Princesses one, which is how I came to find it. That one's called Dancing and Donuts. It was really good. But I think that's such a great idea to like spin them all as Westerns. I thought that was such a neat take.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to check that one out because I've really gotten into Karen Whittemeyer's that she's doing right now, her series. And mainly it's because of the Western twist on it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna have to check that one out. What about you, Rachel?
Abigail O'Brien has a book releasing in August called Iron Rose and through Quill and Flame. And it's this sort of like gritty dystopian Beauty and the Beast retelling. I haven't read anything quite like it before, and I just read an advanced copy a few weeks ago, and I loved it. Like, I cried. It's beautiful. So definitely check that one out when it comes out.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good. You know, I find it interesting that Cinderella and Beauty and the Beast are apparently so popular. They're now tropes. Like, you'll read books that aren't necessarily a retelling, but they follow the same trope. And I find that really interesting that those are the two that have stuck in our culture for so long. I don't know. All right, Katie, name some of your favorite sweet romance authors.
Oh gosh. So I've been reading like everything that Thomas Nelson has on NetGalley right now because they've been just like churning out the best rom-coms. Melissa Ferguson, Pepper Basham, they all have like series. It's great. They're just, I'm like, yes, NetGalley, please sign me up for all the things because everybody's writing a trilogy. So it's just so good. I just love their books.
I agree with those. Those are some good ones. What about you, Rachel?
Those are good ones. Also, I'm a big fan of Catherine Ray, like especially her earlier books like that were based on a lot of the Austen books and things like that. Dear Mr. Bingley, I think was one of them. Lizzie and Jane, Portrait of Emily Price. Like, I don't know if y'all have read any of those, but they're very, very sweet and they're clean. And they also have a lot of cool like nods to classic literature.
All right, cool. You know, I've heard a lot of great things about her, and I haven't picked up any of her books yet. But you know how it goes. Your TBR is like a million miles high, and you feel like you're never going to get through all of them. And every day,
just saying, if it falls on me, it might be over.
Man, but really though, like I have started doing ebooks more just because I can carry them with me at all times if I find myself, which I'm right, because I'm like, I'm never going to get through all these books unless I read every spare second that I can. But anyways, all right. Now, you both are involved with a clean romance collection that is coming out in June. So I'm going to let y'all decide who gets to speak first on this, but I want to hear more about this collection.
Come on, Rachel. It was your idea. Tell us the idea, and then I'll pick up where you leave off.
So Katie and I were trying to think of a creative way to peer pressure our writing friends into writing some more contemporary romance. Is that a fair way to say it? So we thought, wouldn't it be fun if we put together sort of a little anthology of sorts, an ebook of summer love stories? So we pitched it to our friends. A lot of our friends in our flash fiction community write like fantasy. I would say the majority of them write fantasy, right? Sci-fi,
poetry.
Yes. So, and they're brilliant writers and just the best people. We thought, how can we kind of like peer pressure them into doing more romance with us, because we thought it would be fun. So we pitched this idea and people really jumped on board quickly, and we got some super sweet stories, and we had a lot of fun in our group chat and just workshopping each other's stories and editing. And so we have a whole book now of 13 short stories, all set in the summer. It's all sweet romance. There's some friends to lovers, enemies to lovers, second chance. There's a little bit of everything: the beach, the mountains, amusement parks. And so it will release on June 10th, and we are offering it for free. So you can get it through Katie's newsletter, through my newsletter, through any of the other authors who are involved through their newsletter. we're kind of biased, but I think you should sign up for everybody's newsletter. But I'm excited about it. Even if it was just us getting to read the stories, it would have been worth it. But it's going to be fun to get it on other people's Kindles too.
That sounds awesome.
Rachel has great ideas. I knew when Rachel has an idea, you jump on Rachel's idea.
Except the thing is, I have the idea, and then I'm like, how do we do this, Katie?
That's what I need
So Katie has really been
we did it.
the force behind actually getting the work done and keeping me on task.
The taskmaster.
Yes. So I'm not just like throwing out these big dreams.
Hey, we need the dreamer to get the ideas that we can implement.
Yes, you need the dreamer and the doer, and they work really well together. Honestly, that's the only way Spark runs, is we have a nice mixture of the dreamers and the doers. They're like, that sounds like great, but here are all the logistical things we need to do. And it's like, good. All right. But now I have to ask you, I need to know a little bit of a teaser about what your story is about. Because now I'm nosy / curious. So, Katie, can you just give me like a sentence of what your story is about? Is it a single dad?
It is not a single dad. He's an uncle, though. He's an uncle. So
okay.
Uncle.
But this one is jilted bride goes to the beach and runs into her ex-fiance's would-be best man.
Ooh.
Enter drama.
It's so good.
Rachel really likes it.
What about yours, Rachel?
Mine is YA. It is about a guy and a girl whose families own competing like snow cone and slushy businesses at the beach. So it's kind of just light and fun.
It's so cute.
That sounds good. I like that a lot. Now, Rachel, do you find yourself writing a lot of YA, or do you just try it out every once in a while?
I think my sweet spot is new adult.
Mm-hmm.
I just love that, like just that kind of pivotal moment in life where you're transitioning into adulthood and figuring out who you are, and just like it's like a different kind of coming of age story. But I do enjoy YA as well. I kind of feel like they're very similar.
Yeah. I have to agree on that. They are similar. All right. Last question, because we're writers and we have to talk about this. But Katie, plotter or pantser?
Answer.
What about you, Rachel?
Same. I told you I'm the dreamer. I have an idea and I'll just start writing and just see what happens.
You know, I kind of am too, and I find it's easier with a short story than with a full-blown novel to do that. But it also gets my juices flowing if I just pants it rather than sitting there and like painstakingly outlining every single thing. That's just how I roll. However, Hope Wellborn is an outliner, and she will try to bring anyone to the dark side that she possibly can. She tries real hard. But anyways, all right. So, Rachel, if a reader wants to connect with you, where is the best place to find you?
I am on Instagram at right here all along, spelled like right here all along. I also have a Substack that's just rachellawrence.substack.com. And I try to make that kind of fun. I usually do like an interview of someone else in our writing community. And then I have a porch goose that I like to dress up in costume. So he usually makes an appearance in there. If you sign up for my newsletter, you can get my free book and cheese pairing guide as well. So it's just a lot of fun, kind of silly, but also has some writerly news in there.
Okay, I need to sign up for it because I like my snacks when I'm reading. So that sounds perfect. Cheese and book pairing. Okay. All right, Katie, where is the best place to find and connect with you?
So my Instagram is Katie Fitz Stories, and I have a Substack, which is katiefitzgeraldwrites.substack.com.
All right, good deal. Well, thank you for joining us tonight. And thank you, everyone, for watching, whether you're watching live or the replay. After this is over, I'm going to put some links in the comments so you can go find Katie and Rachel and follow them to make sure that you get this collection coming out. Did y'all say June 10th?
June 10th.
June 10th, mark your calendars. make sure you have some time set apart to sit there and read it. All right. So I hope everyone has a very lovely evening, and don't forget to read. Good night, everyone.
Bye.